cumulatively like 50 years between the two of us to try to get better and better at and more proficient. Every single time we go, our only thing after the trip is like we'll tell stories or whatever happened, but the main thing we spend the whole truck ride home talking about is what did we learn this time that can make us better than we are now? And that's harder to do when you've kind of like maxed out more of the green bar of learning. But there's always more to learn and ways to be better, especially if you're a newer guy. I always try to tell them your sole thing is every single day, every hunt, every time you come back to camp, just like dive in really hard on like, what could I have done better? What did I mess up on? How do I not do that again? And if you can start incrementally doing those things, eventually.
What's going on, guys? Hope you're having a fantastic Saturday. Today is another awesome conversation that I get to have with James from the Bow Disciples. I know you know about the Bow Disciples, and if you don't, I'm going to leave a link down below where you can find them. They are hilarious, and they love to put out good content, joking, having a good time with their friends. They've put out some awesome hunt videos, and they put on shoots if you're out in the California area or want to travel to it. They're doing some great things, guys. So I bring him on today because I want him to share maybe some more serious side of him that you don't know about, and why you should go and tune into the Bow Disciples. They are just an awesome group of individuals. And James getting it started and keeping it running while he's got a normal job as well. And we go into all of that today. So hope you enjoy that, guys. Also, don't forget that all through the month of April, we are doing the giveaway for the Dark Energy Poseidon Pro battery pack. We're doing the braided, so the paracord charging cable, and the wall block that is for international use. I used in Italy recently, absolutely worked fantastic. No overheating, transferred the energy like it's supposed to, and it's got a ton of different ports for you to be able to use. So one and done spot to charge all of your items. To be able to get in on that, check out the link down below as well. I'm going to leave it down there in the description. Without further ado, guys, let's get into this conversation with James and the Bow Disciples. Welcome back, everyone, to the RedBeard Outdoors podcast. I've got a stud right here. You guys probably know James from his trigger slapping videos and follow through videos. I think everyone has seen that, and it's great technique. But we've got James Visser here, and he is with the Bow Disciples. Exactly. He's with the Bow Disciples. He also does real estate. He's got a lot of other things that you guys probably don't know about behind the scenes, but on social media you'll recognize the Bow Disciples. They set up archery shoots. They like to just talk archery, hunting. Him and his wife are pretty passionate about getting out and shooting critters and bringing meat home. That's not been crazily processed and stuff full of hormones. So, with that being said, James, for people that don't know who you are from your brat videos, who are you?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right there. Like you said, been selling real estate for about 9 years out here in Southern California. So, it's definitely a journey that's tough. It's a business you got to grow all on your own. No one's going to do the work for you. And same with the social media stuff. That's been a process as well. I actually put my first video on the internet in 2007, but that was biking content at the time. So then transitioned to real estate, and then I've been a bow hunter my whole life since the 90s. Since I was very young, I was bow hunting, and I've done it my whole life. Got my first rabbit when I was 5 years old with a bow, and done it ever since. So it was only natural to eventually start filming that stuff just for our personal memories, and eventually people started to watch, and we're 6 years in. So it's 5.5 years in, basically. So it's pretty cool.
No, that is awesome. That is really cool. You definitely have a distinct style when it comes to your social media presence, which, that the best people do, right? The ones that get the engaging content. You definitely are not afraid to, when I tell people, like, they're like, hey, who are you having come up on the podcast? And I was like, oh, I've got James from the Bow Disciples. They're like, James, I'm like, and I referenced that video, and everyone that I've talked to, they're like, oh, that guy. Like, yeah, he's you seem like one of those guys that you can be a goofball, but you can be serious when it comes down to if you actually have to be serious. You're not just an overall goofball. You like to enjoy life while you can, and do the things that you and your wife seem to enjoy. So with that, where did the whole Bow Disciples come from? Why that name? Where did that come from?
All right, so the name is pretty crazy. I've never told this story, but it's a
Oh, here we
great
go. Here we
story
go.
actually. So me and my buddy Nick, right? We had this thing where we would call each other Team BD back in like 2015 is what we would say, but it meant between me and him, Team Big Dick, right? This is what it meant, right?
Yep.
But then one day his girlfriend goes, what is that? She goes, I'm not stupid. I know what that means. And he goes, what, Bow Disciples? And when he told me the story, I thought it was hilarious. And I was like, I like the name too. So when it came time to actually make content and come up with a name, rather than just say James Visser, Hunter, or whatever, I thought it was a good name that would go well on merch and kind of be like a funny backstory or whatever. So there it is.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of funny, and that definitely fits the brand. Having a good funny backstory like that. And you can bring other people in, like Whitney and your wife. They can't really be a part of Team Big Dick.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so having Bow Disciples, that's awesome. That's really funny though.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Shout
And
out to
then
Nick.
when did that start? When did Bow Disciples start?
2018. Yeah.
Okay.
2018 was our first videos, and nobody watched them, but that wasn't why I made them. I just made them for ourselves to, really kind of like have memories to like go back and watch like our hunting stuff. But then I started filming 3D shoots and other stuff just because I thought it was fun and I like making videos. And then eventually it didn't take too long. I got a video that went like crazy, pretty viral for me at the time. It was this guy poaching this deer, and I happened to get it all on film, and It ended up getting quite a bit of viewership. And then it took me exactly 1 year to the day to hit 1,000 subscribers. And I don't even know how many videos, but a lot. And then I was like, well, I don't know. Maybe I know that YouTube people makes money sometimes, so maybe I'll just like keep doing this. And now here we are. We got, 30 million views and whatever, 36,000 subscribers or whatever. And we only did the YouTube really. And then I started doing the short form content on YouTube Shorts, Reels, TikTok, Facebook. I just started putting them on everything last year. And that's when a lot of those like shorts you're talking about went crazy. I think we have one with, I think our biggest one's probably 75 million views. And we got a bunch over 1 million, probably 50 by now. So it's pretty neat. Awesome. But the short form is always just pretty much cut from our YouTube. So like I'll redo it in a vertical aspect and post those. And then, that grew the Instagram, the TikTok, and the Facebook. But it all started with YouTube. And to me, that's still like what we are as a YouTube channel, not like a Instagram page or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Instagram, you're kind of using to reference people over to the YouTube longer format style. And that's really cool. Just going back to, I know you weren't necessarily consistent, but saying back in 2007, you posted your first video. And then it took you, when you did, be consistent with it, it took you a year to hit 1,000 subscribers. So I say that because people don't recognize the effort that it takes to get, like, to figure out your engaging content. You're still kind of figuring out your brand too at that time, what you're wanting to be consistent with, what kind of, what you're wanting to put out there. But, when people look at their Instagrams, for example, or their YouTubes or whatever channel they have, and they see a number like 1,000 or 500, what I say to them is, especially on YouTube, there's a lot less bots and things like that that'll subscribe. If you have a YouTube channel out there, or you got a podcast or whatever it may be, that you're putting content out there, think about a room filled with that many people.
Yeah.
That are your subscribers, your followers, your whatever. It's crazy to think, because you look at big, like right now you've got 36,000, right? And you're like, well, 1,000 was a good, spot to be at, but now we're 36 times that, right? At 1,000 though, you can't even fit that many people in a good sized room.
Yeah.
And imagine
No,
speaking in front of those people. And I always try and highlight that for people that are maybe they're just starting their channel right now. Maybe they have been feeling like they're grinding at it and they're not finding any growth. I just say be consistent and stick to it, because look where you are now, 5 years, almost 6 years later, and you've had exponential growth over those 6 years. You're not at 6,000 subscribers in 6 years, or less than that, 5 years. You're 36 times that, because you've continued to do that. So kudos to that and the growth.
Thank you.
With the channel, like you said, you're putting out videos not necessarily with the intent to make money at the beginning, and still not to this day necessarily, even though it is a part-time job to do these things. What is the purpose behind Bow Disciples?
So just to go back real quick on one thing you just said. So I have posted content on the internet regularly since 2007.
Okay.
But that was different content. I did not put anything archery or hunting related out at all until 2018. So like I started the channel and that's when it started. But I will say, for people who want to be creators, that's like, it's easier for me to go do because I had so many years of experience editing and filming and being comfortable, that if you're, to your point, just now getting started, you should for sure do it and hit it hard. But it'll probably take some time to work out the kinks and learn how to edit faster and learn how to film faster and how to make things better. So anyway, I think that's an important topic, is how long it takes. And then but why, the purpose of it, I would say, is to, when I made the channel and really started out as like a photo album for us to go look back on. And then when it became more of being an entertainment channel, I looked at it as, in hunting, or hunting and archery, I was really only seeing content that was largely geared towards, being a hardo and always being in the gym and kind of taking things real serious and like being as hard as you could be. And I like that stuff. Like, I'm a big time gym guy. I love the gym. So it's just like not what we focus on that much. But I thought that something that was missing, at least from my perspective, for the most part, was promoting it as a fun thing you could do with your friends and family. So for me, that was something that was important. And, one of my heroes growing up was Michael Waddell. I would put in the VHS tapes back in the day. My parents would get them for Christmas, and I was always so excited to watch the Monster Bucks tapes. And what I liked about Michael was he was always so fun and so cool and just like a rock star of this when he was young, like 20 probably or younger. And I think he did that amazingly. And we kind of wanted to be in that same vein a little bit, especially with our archery stuff. We do the beer pong games, which went crazy viral as well. And Total Archery, we're always making jokes and having a riot out there. Don't get it twisted. I like to tear people up out there too, but whatever. But yeah, I think just the fun, and what I think's amazing is last year when we did our first Bow Disciples Challenge shoot, and our second one's coming up in May, is so many people that came to that I go to shoots all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but that one had a ton of people that it was their first shoot ever. So we get a whole lot of new people into the sport, and I think it's because even if it's just shooting, I always tell people there's a difference between hunting and just shooting your bow for fun. You can just shoot for fun if you're not interested in hunting. And I think that we make it a little bit more accessible, maybe, and less scary for people to want to get into. Um, and I think that's kind of like what we've dove into. And then for our hunting stuff, those videos will be different. Those are more like storylines and more serious and whatever. But for our archery stuff, we really try to keep it fun for the most part, because there's so much stuff out there that's educational, and we do have that too, but we make it more fun, and at least in my opinion. And then we have some stuff that's literally you're going to put on and just bust up laughing the whole time, and I think that's great too. So that's kind of, I guess I would say, our overarching thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely something that, and I know, AMFJJ's brought this up too, that TAC does something that a lot of shoots, like right now, Vegas is going on at the time of this recording, the Vegas shoot, which I'm hoping to get to next year in 2025. That's a goal of mine, to go to that, or Reading, one of the actual like more official shoots, because TAC is a lot of fun, but depending on the group you're with is how serious you're going to take it, And most of the time I shoot with a bunch of people that we just want to get out on the mountain and have fun, and we want to hit the foam, right? Me personally, I'm kind of internalizing like the competition and making sure that I'm aiming and hitting where I need to be and testing myself, but I don't really officially compete against the people I'm shooting with. And so for me, that's what TAC and Mountain Archery Fest, which I don't know if you've heard of or been to any of those, but the Mountain Archery,
I've heard of it. I haven't been yet, but I will at some point, I'm sure.
yeah, they're a place where you can go, you can test your skills, but you don't have the pressure of something like a Vegas or a Reading or a Lancaster, where you're on stage, the lights on you, and you're shooting a bunch of against a bunch of people that are big names and have been shooting since they were 5 years old, kind of deal. There's a lot less pressure and it's a lot more fun. So I like how you bring that up, and you guys definitely highlight that you do have a lot of fun, while at the same time you are learning from each other how to get better at shooting a bow and testing yourself in the mountains. So out of the different TAC events that you've been to, what's been your favorite one that you've gone to as far as the venue goes?
I'll give two. So I think for like overall venue wise, just like a lot of fun as a setting. I really liked where it was at in Utah last year, because it was a new Utah venue. We had in fact, I met you there, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
when we met. Yeah. But I liked it because our condo was right in the resort, so we could just walk from there to restaurants or the pool or the vendors or to the lift, like whatever. So that was really convenient and cool. Great shooting too. My favorite shooting wise is probably the one in Colorado, just because I'm always got my score sheet. I'm always scoring for rings, and trust me, I want to win every time I'm in the group. So I'm trying we're having a riot, but I definitely want to come out on top every time and not break any arrows. And I actually used to keep track. I could go back and keep track, but I think I've shot like probably at this point like 800 targets at attack, and I think I've broken or lost like 5 or 6 arrows maybe.
Wow.
I actually had like the stat sheet. I might have to re-up it, but yeah, Colorado's cool because it's very, very steep, and it's a tough one for sure. I think shooting wise, probably the one that'll test your skills the most if you really want to give it a try. That one's great. And then for like more of a beginner one, I always recommend San Antonio because it's super fun. The venue's great. The area's cool. but the shootings, it's more flat, so it's a little bit more basic than
Yeah.
Colorado or Utah or what have you. But yeah, those would be two of my standouts, I think.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with you on that. I did San Antonio for the first time this last year, and that's actually where I met Whitney. She was talking with Cade, which I know you and Cade are buddies. And so that was a fun event, but I would agree it's definitely, and I hate to say beginner, but it is more of the beginner tack because it's a lot more flat. There's not a lot of up and down hills. And there's not even really a lot of trees that you have to avoid. It's just a good, fun event. It's hot, but it's fun. It's definitely fun if you get the right group of people. And
Yep.
and yeah, I'm excited for Solitude again this year here in Utah. It was different. I'm used to the Park City one,
Same.
and so coming to Solitude, I think, and you probably had a really good experience because you were in the actual area itself, the little village. But people that were traveling to it, they hated it because the traffic to and from was not very fun. Once you get there, it's an awesome event, but it seemed like the traffic was a little bit worse than, or a lot worse than Park City. So it'll be interesting to see what they do to fix that this year. And then Colorado, I've never been to that one. I actually hear a lot about Big Sky. I don't hear a lot about Colorado, but I imagine it's good. Colorado's got some beautiful mountains.
Yeah, it's just very, very steep. And yeah, this year the crew were going to Big Sky in Utah this year. So,
Sweet.
and I might go to San Antonio again. I think it would be my fourth straight year, but I'm only going if Brandon, me, and Ranch Fairy go. We joked around about that a little bit, so we might. But other than that, we're doing those two that I mentioned.
Sweet. I like that. That's awesome. So what let's go to the kind of the origin story of you. What even before that, I do want to highlight something too. It was on my mind and it just circled back around. But
Oop,
the fact that since 2007
hold on,
you've
you're
been putting
paused
stuff
out.
up, and you said you were biking and doing some other content prior to the archery stuff. But
You're frozen
the
up.
idea of, I mean, was that
Let me
17
see if I
years
can
worth
chat
of
with you.
what you're doing on the internet and posting videos and content? That's an insane amount of time to be thinking. I mean, 17 years, that's an entire all the way through high school career,
Oh, there
basically.
you are. Sorry. I
Oh, we
couldn't
lose
hear
you
you
for a
for the
minute.
past like 30 seconds.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I was just giving you a bunch of compliments and stuff
Oh,
like that.
thank
So
you.
no,
Thank you. Say it
no.
again.
Oh man, no, I was saying that going back to the fact that since 2007 you've been putting stuff up. I mean, 17 years. That is an entire lifetime for a high school kid, right? A senior in high school. That is from birth to graduation, pretty much, and that's a long amount of time to be consistently putting stuff up. And I would agree with you on the fact that if you're not doing it for the right reasons, like if you were doing it just to make money, you would have quit years ago because you weren't doing the numbers that you would need to support any kind of lifestyle, really. Um, but I love that you're saying you had more of like a photo album, video album, and memories that you can go back to and recognize, and that's definitely that's really cool. But I do want to ask you, where did you get into archery? Like, what got you started? Was it a family tradition? Are you a first generation bow hunter that you're starting this tradition? Like, where did archery come into your story?
Yeah, so my dad still is a bow hunter. So when I was born, I, you know, literally from the time I was like 2 or 3, I was shooting these like plastic long bows and taping stabilizers on them, and just like that was my life, was shooting ever since I was a little tiny kid. And then yeah, I would stalk rabbits in the yard and like my pull up diapers. We have old videos of my plastic bow, and then I ended up shooting my first rabbit when I was 5 with a bow, and then my first deer. I don't know how young, but I was very young with a bow as well. And then I shot my first bull with a bow when I was, I think, 13 or 14, bull elk. And yeah, just done it ever since. So for me, it's I know nowadays with hunting getting more of a shine on social media because of Rogan and Cam, which is, I think, awesome. There's a lot of first gen guys, and I think a lot of people probably just assume that's me, but it's definitely not. Like, I was born and bred into this, so for me, it's a lifelong endeavor that I don't plan to stop. But I think that the new people are great. I know a lot of people bitch about so many new guys, but the reality is hunting numbers of people with licenses are still declining, so it's kind of fake news, really. I think that there's just more accessibility now with tools like Onyx and Hunt and Fool that make it more feasible for people to go hunt in another state than it was, say, when I started. And the only way you would go was if you had maybe a friend who knew the area or something along those lines to kind of make you comfortable to drive 3 states and then like go hunt, and you'd have to have your maps to know where you could go. It was just different. Now it's much easier to take that leap of faith. It's not even really a leap of faith anymore. All the information's there. So people complain about it being harder to draw tags, and that's just the nature of the beast. That's happened in anything with the age of the internet, whether you're a hiker, a biker, a camper, a gamer. Like, it doesn't matter. Everything is more saturated, and it's not that there's more people necessarily. It's that there is more learning and more knowledge that's accessible, that's causing that. And I think you can bitch about it, but the only way to put that genie back in the bottle is if you get rid of the internet, and that's not really a realistic thing, at least in the near future. So I think it's kind of goofy when people bash on new guys or whatever. I don't understand it, but
No.
you know,
Yeah. No, I agree. It's and I haven't looked at the numbers, but I do think it's almost a false um just an idea of like there's more hunters and more people, but I think it's the same amount of people, or like what you were saying, less people have um licenses. Maybe it's more people are going with them, whatever it may be, but more people leaving their home state and knowing what states they can go to and how to do draws and what's over the counter and where they can go. And it's just it's a larger chunk of the same number of hunters or huntresses that are actually going out to different areas and exploring those different areas, because it is more accessible. I mean, with
bingo.
Onyx or Spartan Forge, you've got HuntWise, you've got the Hunt and Fool people that go through and they'll basically do all the calculations for you and figure out what the best odds are, and all of that stuff are tools that you have to pay for, right? So if you have the money for it, you got it in your budget, you have more accessibility to other states and other hunting areas.
Yeah.
I don't hear that coming from Eastern and Midwestern guys. And I don't know if it's that I don't talk to them enough, but it sounds like it's mainly Western guys that are complaining about this, not the Eastern and Midwest guys, because they're already saturated in the woods as it is. A lot of them, more out east, they deal with high volumes of hunters as is, because there's a higher population of people out there. There's higher density of people. So, I'm on the boat with you, and it could be that I'm an adult onset hunter, as people are terming them. I didn't start hunting until like 7-8 years ago, and I didn't start bow hunting until like 4 years ago. And so it's been a transition for me, but I feel like people like yourself that are encouraging people to get out and shoot and to learn a bow and to learn how to hunt, and providing that information is what's going to keep people coming back to the hunting industry. The other thing too, that people, I had a guy go on a rant on me on Instagram, of course, shot me a message and was like, well, these stupid adult onset hunters, blah, blah, blah. Right. And I let him go on and on and on. And I'm just reading his message and I'm kind of laughing because I am that guy. I am the adult onset hunter. Like, and so I'm like, do you even know who you're talking to? But he went off about how it's crowding the woods and all this other stuff. And so I just, empathized with him, responded very respectfully, and then let him know, hey, I'm actually one of those guys that started hunting as an adult because I wasn't taught as a kid to do those things. And I'm going to provide that opportunity now for my kids, but I'm not going to force my kids into it. And his idea was the hunters that are currently hunting need to force their children in, and that's how you're going to continue the hunting population at what it is. And I don't know if you've ever tried to force a kid to do anything, but they usually do the opposite of what you try and get them to do. So I don't think that that's a great strategy. But where do you? I can imagine where you stand on this. But like, what's your idea on how to help conservation and people, hunters in general, to either at least maintain the level we're at or to grow the population?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think that like I said, I'm fortunate to have been a hunter a long time, and I've seen actually the ebbs and flows in hunting popularity in that time span.
Hmm.
I remember being in elementary school and I wouldn't even tell people I hunted because I knew that they would look at me as like a bad guy and it wouldn't go over well because there was no acceptance in hunting then. It was super taboo and it was just like something that you couldn't do. And then, once Joe Rogan started talking about hunting, I saw a big shift and it became a lot more acceptable and even kind of cool for some time. And I would say we're still kind of in the tail end of that era. But, people did think it was cool, especially with someone like Joe, who's very good at communicating and explaining the importance of, healthy meat and a good diet and solid protein and animals that aren't farm raised and they're wild animals and the challenges of hunting. I think that helped a lot with the non-hunter. And then, a whole new wave of people like yourself thought it was cool and wanted to get into it. And then COVID came along and everyone wanted to be outside. So mountain bike sales skyrocketed, dirt bike sales skyrocketed, RV sales skyrocketed, trucks, Jeeps, you name it. Of course, bows and hunting was one of those things. Same with fishing. Like, doesn't matter what it was. If it was outside, you saw a big spike in interest and popularity of people wanting to do it. Now we're 3 and change years removed from that now. And I think that inevitably we're going to see a lot of people that got into hunting or got into biking or whatever get back out of those things and kind of transition back to whatever they were doing prior to COVID. So I think we will see a bit of a fall off soon of people that are actively hunting. But the important part is they're probably going to be allies moving forward with hunting and what it stands for. So whether they continue to hunt or shoot bows or not, it doesn't really matter because from like a lobbying perspective, hunting is starting to potentially get to the point where we're going to lose some rights to hunt. It's already happened in California with mountain lions, bobcats, and they tried to get bears. That didn't pass, but who knows, in the future it may. But the only way we're going to hold on to our traditional rights as hunters legally is if we have enough people that are allies that understand why it's important to be on board and vote and sign these different things and donate money to keep the tradition intact. So I'm always a fan of getting more people to at least understand hunting. Mm-hmm. And then that you need the people to be on board or else those rights will go away. We in California here, we're a perfect example. We've lost some rights. And that's why I've never understood when people bitch and whine, because I'm like, look, tags probably will always be harder to draw now just because of Onyx and Hunt and Fool and these different platforms that help you draw tags and understand the odds. But my guess would be you will see the number of applicants start to taper off a bit here pretty soon, and we'll probably get back. But the important part is most of those people will still be supportive of hunting and the lifestyle. So it's like, to me, you just got to make some sacrifices and not be selfish. And of course, I understand wanting to have my secret spots and draw tags easier. Like, I get that for sure. But I also would rather it be hard to get tags or what have you and still be able to hunt. And one day, if I have kids, hopefully they can still hunt, and on and on and on, hopefully. But that's not going to happen if we don't accept more people into the fold, whether it's for a short or long term.
Exactly. It's it's the same mindset as someone getting upset, at a trailhead because you're at the trailhead and you're going in at the same time. I kind of laugh because I'm like, wait, are you going to cover the whole mountain? Like, what do I've had some, and everyone has had those experiences where they've been upset. And I'm not gonna lie, I've had times where I wanted to flip out on someone because they blew out an area that I'd been sitting. But you look at it and you're like, well, one, is public land, and two, they had no idea I was there. So, is what it is. It happens.
Yep.
It's one of those things where you kind of have to, you either pay and go get on private land, or you play the public land game and you just roll with the punches and be okay with the fact that there's going to be other people there. But we need to, the united, not divided idea. The anti-hunters are definitely very united. They are adamantly anti-hunting. They couldn't care less about what each other is doing as long as they're all aiming their spearheads at hunters, right? And the hunting rights that we have. It's the people that are in between, kind of like what you were mentioning, of the non-hunters, but not the anti-hunters, the ones that just kind of really don't care. And they just go with what they see, the billboards or the news or on social media, whatever it is that they're ingesting. And we have to come off as a better united front to be able to help those people, even if they don't want to come into the hunting scene. At least they will have a respect for hunters. They don't think hunters are just some redneck person that goes out and likes to kill stuff, and
Yep.
has half their teeth. That's the perspective that some people would have of a hunter, and that's not what we should be putting out there. They also may have the perspective of the the person out there that's covered in blood and holding up the heart like a champion, in the Olympics. And it's like those pictures are cool to have, but what message are you trying to portray?
For sure. Yeah. I think taking classy photos, and I mean, I'm big on good hunting photos. I've actually made videos about it. I really try to make good photos, but you got to know, like, don't have a tongue hanging out, wash blood off the face, wash the side if you can. Like, you want it to be in a picture that if someone sees who's never hunted in their life, it's kind of like, oh, wow, that's cool, rather than like kind of this cringe reaction. And I think the same thing when I see some photos that some people take. I'm like, ooh, that could have been better. And that's why I try to coach. And I'll probably do another video. It's been a long time since I've done that video, but yeah, I mean, the bottom line is, the separation like this, it happens in every single industry. It doesn't matter what it is. It could literally be filmmaking, or I've just watched this YouTube video about this exact same thing happening with a tree in the redwoods that people found, and it was the tallest tree in the world, and no one knew where it was. And then 2015 hit, and like 8 people had found it, and then a blog gets the coordinates and it gets flooded. I mean, it's just, that happens in life with the internet. It is what it is. But obviously, we got to navigate things our best, and just don't be a hater. And I think sometimes jealousy is pretty nasty, because I think once you have any sort of, I would say like this, when you're a creator and you have 100 followers or 100 people that watch your videos, everybody's going to be supportive. Then when you get 1,000 viewers, maybe then you might have one or two haters. And then when you get 100,000 views, there's way more people that love it too, but the number of people that dislike it is also much larger. And I think it becomes easier to focus on the negative people when in reality, you just got to kind of like keep it moving. I think just, it is what it is. They don't know you. These people have never met you. So it doesn't matter.
Exactly. And yeah, people definitely get wrapped up in opinions and polarizations. I mean, it's just like, it's a tale as old as time. I mean, the news does it. They've been doing it, headlines. The newspapers, they put the biggest, flashiest headline on the front page of the news. That was the cool thing, to be on the front page. If you're on the front page, you got more viewership. Obviously, you couldn't track it like you can now with the internet and clicks and, views and things like that. But it's a tale as old as human beings.
For sure. You go watch an hour-long news show on any channel, CNN, Fox, MSNBC. Like, they're hour-long shows, which means there's 44 minutes of content. Of that 44 minutes, I bet 42 minutes is spent on fear, either scaring people or making people angry, pitting people against each other. And then maybe for 2 minutes, they'll show like some funny puppy videos or something, like for a little laugh. But they're bread and butter for sure. Just because what people engage with, exactly like we're talking about on social media, is negativity. That's just like your brain, for some reason, is wired to care more about that than positivity. It's just like a natural human emotion, I guess. So, as long as you're aware of that, then I think like you can navigate it a little better. But for some people, I think it's just like entertainment. They're probably really bored, and that's like a fun thing to do. And I think meme pages are a perfect example of this. I got put on some archery meme page one time, and it was not like one of the funny meme pages. It's more like they try to just like pick a person and like attack them. And it's interesting because it's like a cesspool of negativity. It's like it's almost like the people in the comments are like battling to see who can be the most negative, and you can either let that bother you or you just go, well, I mean, I guess they're posting me because I've made it to a certain point, I guess. But it's like, for me to sit there and like really dwell on it is like, it's dumb. You shouldn't do that. And I did some for a little while, but then I go, this is dumb. This doesn't affect me at all. And you just move on,
Oh yeah. 100%. That's, again, you can't, if you're going to put anything out on social media or the internet, you got to have some kind of a thick skin, because if you let everything get to you, I mean, I can't imagine the stress that your life has. If you're letting some stranger from 5 states over say some BS about you when they don't even know who you are, they just don't like what you put up on the internet that day. It's kind of silly, but yeah, no, that's definitely good. I love hearing the fact that you're definitely one of those people that are all about unity and making sure that we as hunters have these hunting rights well into the future. Like our kids, grandkids, great grandkids are still able to hunt. That's really what we want to do. So you don't talk a ton about, I guess, you do some videos on arrows and bows and such, but you don't do a whole lot of like tinkering per se. You like to pick a setup and just roll with it. And that's, I can respect that, because one, it's less stressful, and two, you're able to focus on the basics. But I guess kind of walk us through, for people that are interested in what James is shooting and what you're doing, because you've obviously been successful. You've got some nice mounts behind you. Your videos show that you've had some successful elk hunts and deer hunts, and you've gotten your wife into it as well. What's your setup for this year so far? What are you getting set up for 2024?
Yeah, so it's actually the most I've kind of changed. And the only reason I'm doing that really is just, give some different things a rip. We'll see. But yeah, I generally always run the same stuff for the most part, other than like the bow. But this year I'm running the Bowtech Core SR, and I'm shooting it in performance this year, which I always shoot in comfort generally. So the draw is definitely firm, but it's a fast bow. I'm running the vertical sight for the first time with 2 reticles, so that's new. I generally run a 5-pin sight, which I really
Is that
like.
spot
So
hog or what's the
no, I'm running a black gold. I always run
perfect?
black gold. So, but yeah, so I'm running that, and
The
then
dual track?
the dual track. Yep.
Okay. I
Mm-hmm.
like that sight. That's a really good sight because you can actually move both pins.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yep. So that's what I'm running now. Excited to see how I like it, and then yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, like, I think this is true in any sport, whether you're like a dirt bike racer or a mountain biker or whatever. I think that your skill and how much you practice and how much you repeat and just how locked in you can be is what's going to make the difference. Like, someone could have a factory Honda 450 Supercross ride bike, but if they're not a pro level rider, it doesn't matter. You'll still get smoked by a pro rider on a stock 125. It's just like that's how it goes. So I think a lot of people maybe, I think a lot of times in any sport, really, and including archery, I think people think they can like buy their way into being better. And I don't think that's the truth. Like, I think that you're the best way to get better is to shoot more. And sometimes I think that tinkering a ton causes you to shoot less. So it's almost worse. In fact, I think it is worse than just like having a setup that you've shot for 3 years and are extremely comfortable with and you've shot 10,000 times.
Right.
So that's always kind of been my motto. So like what I'm doing now, yeah, it's a little bit different, but I'm still going to shoot a lot. All the arrows I've shot my whole life will obviously still probably make me a pretty good shooter, but like I do think that as a creator there's some benefit in tinkering and jumping around a little more because it does create more stuff I can go make videos about that people are interested in. So, do I think it'll make me a better shooter or any of that stuff? Probably not. I'll probably be pretty close to the same level of production, but I do think that it'll make some more video content and ideas that I can put out that will be beneficial to somebody who says, "Hey, should I buy the 5-pin sight or or the dual track?" And I can say, "Well, I've shot both, and here's what I like and dislike."
Right. No, I definitely understand that. That's and I would agree with you 100%. If you're not someone, if you have limited time, because like you see, for example, Dan Staten, I like to tinker around a lot, and there's a lot of people that like to mess around with their setups, but if you notice, those people also make time to shoot. They're not just messing with their stuff, so they have time to shoot. And I'm talking about social media, most of the people that you see tinkering kind of deal. If you have a limited amount of time, don't tinker, go shoot. And most of the people that I know, again, I'm going to bring up Dan Staten. He's fresh on my mind because the podcast came out today, and I've chatted with him recently on this. But he will tell you all day, and it doesn't make him any money for you to not go and buy stuff off of his site. But he'll say, if you have to choose, if you don't have time to do both, stick with your setup and go practice, because that is going to be way more valuable than messing around with the coolest, newest, greatest thing and then missing your bull because you didn't get the reps in that you need, or missing your deer or whatever it is that you're hunting because you were too busy messing around with the flashy stuff rather than, focusing on the basics, like what you're saying. And I think that there's a lot to be said about that. So yes, it's cool to tinker and mess around, but some people too, I've noticed talking to people, they don't have that desire to get the newest, latest, greatest thing. They genuinely are cool with shooting a 8-year-old bow, and if they happen to get a new one sent to them, they'll get a new one. But other than that, they're like, it's a tool. and that's not what I'm focused on. So there's the
Definitely
gear junkies, and then there's the other people that are just kind of like, that's cool stuff, but like, I don't need it kind of deal.
totally.
Yeah, so I feel like you definitely fall more into that other category. That's why I wanted to ask you about it, because you
Yeah.
don't talk about your setups a ton, and I figure it's because you don't change it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty accurate for sure. Yeah.
So you've got the Core SS. You're shooting the black
SR.
gold dual track. Oh, SR. Sorry, the Core SR. You're shooting the black gold dual track.
Yep.
Again, I've run that sight before. That sight is awesome. How do you like the picture on that versus your 5-pin?
I haven't really shot it a ton yet. I just recently got it, and so I wouldn't really be able to say, but I always have said that I think accuracy wise, I'll probably be slightly more accurate with a vertical pin just because it's a little bit less clutter. But then again, I really like the 5-pin, and I'm super comfortable splitting pins or holding high, holding low, and I've done it so long that it's like I think my mind just like computes stuff pretty well. But I'm excited. Like I am excited to try it and see if my scores go up a little, if I'm just feeling more dialed, if I get worse, so the jury's still out.
Awesome. I like it. And then your arrow setup for people out there wanting to know your arrow setup. What are you shooting?
Yeah, so I shoot deer crossing archery arrows, which are amazing because the arrows I shoot are the same GPI as my old gold tip Velocity Pros. So I shoot 300 spine, 0.001 straightness, standard shaft, 422 grain, with a 100 grain tip, 30 grain insert behind that. And the really cool part is those arrows are way cheaper than anything else, and there is no difference. They fly the same. They fly amazing. They're very, very durable, which I've been impressed with. I shot this javelina this year, and he went tumbling down the hill. A video will be out soon. It's pretty wild. But that arrow, I mean, tumbled with this javelina for like 20 yards down this steep cliff, and the arrow didn't even break.
Hmm.
And I'm like, most arrows that I know would break, and they're costing like $250 to $300 a dozen. Which these
Yeah.
arrows that I shoot with especially if you use our discount code Pump Station, you can get a dozen of them for right around $100, made, shipped to your door, everything.
So I'm looking them up right now. Do they have um a 4 millimeter or 5 millimeter? Do you know which one you're
Yeah, so
shooting?
they make all the different shafts. So they have standard, the real skinny ones. I forgot what it's called, and then the one that's a little bit skinnier, but like between the standard and the super slim one. And then I think they're even starting to make the like telephone pole target arrows as well. So you can get whatever. And I shoot the hunters, but they make a bunch of different styles of options. I've always been a fan of kind of a standard shaft. That's what I stuck with when I started shooting their arrows. But yeah, I have nothing but good things to say. And I think that arrows are one of the things that really can make people shoot potentially less because they are so expensive. You might be like, oh, I don't want to try this shot because if I miss or break an arrow, like that's $40 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with these, you're sitting like $10 per arrow, if
Yeah.
not a little bit less. So to me, that gives people comfort to be like, oh man, I can shoot more or try things that are a little riskier when I'm practicing or whatever and get more comfortable. And part of the reason I wanted to do something with those guys was because the arrows they're the same. Like they don't fly any. They're extremely accurate, just like the gold tips were, just like an Easton would be, or whatever. Like their arrows are primarily made in one of three factories, so they're all kind of generally the same thing. And what makes people choose whether or not to run them comes down to marketing and branding, I think, generally.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy to be working with them, and they're an amazing product. So I definitely suggest them, and I dig them.
That's cool. I just looked them up. Yeah, they're a full dozen for $70
Yeah, yeah,
without your discount.
and you can get another 15% off. Yeah, it's crazy. So pretty cool. And I
That
think we
is
have the only
insane.
discount code with them. Pretty sure. So I'm kind of an advocate of like the brands that I work with are ones that you know everyone and their mom doesn't work with. So like the ones we choose are like pretty strategic, and we have like
Yeah.
a really good one-on-one relationship, and I think that's pretty cool too.
No, that is awesome. That is really cool because yeah, you can get lost in the weeds working with bigger companies that um, honestly, I would agree. There's very minuscule differences. I don't know anything about deer crossing archery. I trust them. You've obviously killed a lot of stuff, and you trust your arrows. You know your arrows. You shot a lot your whole life, so you know what's a good arrow and what's not.
Yep.
And so I think people get really wrapped up, just like again, crossbow versus compound versus longbow, or uh, Sig versus Glock in the pistol world, or Christensen arms versus Seekins. Like all of this stuff is kind of silly because they all do things, and that's what's the beauty of the market that we have is that something I like shooting PSE. I like the way that bow feels. You like the way a Bowtech feels. To me, I personally don't like that, but there's a couple brands I do like, and there's brands that you like, and that's cool because again, there's things Bowtech does better than PSE, and vice versa. And it's just
Mhm.
what do you want in your setup,
Yep.
and do you like the way the bow looks? That's another thing
Yeah.
too. And so all of those things come into play, and it's cool that you're able to walk into a bow shop. And I always tell people, go shoot all the bows.
Yep.
And if it's in your budget for carbon, add the carbon ones in there too. If it's not, then go with the aluminum bows. They're just as good, if not honestly better than carbons. And go mess around, shoot all the bows, see what one feels better for you.
I
And
agree.
then from
I
there,
say this. I say the same thing. Yeah, I say the same
exactly,
thing. So
exactly. So
I mean,
let's,
really, be a good feel and being comfortable and practicing a lot is like that's all there is to it. So yeah, when you go to a bow shop to pick up your bow, whether it's your first one or your fifth one ever, like try them all and
yep,
go with whichever one. For me, like one of the most important things in a bow is the grip. And PSE actually does have a grip that I like. I like a square edge straight to the riser, and PSE for the most part runs that. So, but for someone else, they might like the Hoyt grip with the rubber, or the Matthews that has a rubber, or the Prime with their space gel or whatever it is. Like, so it's like, but you won't know unless you go try them and find out which one you feel the most repeatable with.
exactly, exactly. And again, it's you know, I we have similar preferences when it comes to that. You want a good grip. You don't want something that you're going to torque the bow really bad, and but also you want a bow that looks good. Um, people don't talk about that very often, but
No, it's
uh,
true.
you want a bow that looks good, and a bow that looks good to me. Like I've taken that PSE carbon in to the bow shop, and one of the guys looked at it. He was like, "Man, that thing looks like a girl without curves." And I was like, "That's fine. That's your preference. Cool deal." But that's just again, you find what works for you. And more than anything, what it boils down to is being confident with your setup when you're out there at full draw on a bull or a deer or a javelina or whatever it is that you're hunting. You want to have full confidence in your setup, and there is something to say about one, it looks good, but two, the feel. And again, you don't want to be at full draw thinking, oh man, you know, can I trust this arrow to go through an animal? Can I trust the broadhead to open? Can I, you know, trust the arrow flight? Can I trust my bow not to blow up in my hand? Like, you don't want to be thinking about all those things while you're at full draw. You want to be thinking about the fact that arrow is going to be buried behind the animal, or at least go through the animal, and and do what it needs to do. That's all that should be going through your head at that moment, not whether your equipment's going to work or not. So
Absolutely.
yeah, for sure. Let's see. I'm trying to think of anything. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring up that we haven't touched on today?
I've enjoyed our chat. I feel like, I don't know. I think it's been fun. If you want to talk about something else, I'll keep it going. I got nowhere to be right now, so not for a couple hours. So whatever you want to do, but yeah, I don't know. I think I'm sure you've done something on it, but I saw you got your first bowl this year.
Yep,
That's pretty cool.
that guy right there.
That's awesome. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah. That was it's. I mean, I've been bow hunting for 4 years now. And well, I guess this will be my fourth year technically with a tag in my pocket. I've been shooting a bow for 4 years, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. Went to Colorado. I've been doing the Utah grind. I've come really close. Actually, my very first day out in here in Utah, my very first day, very first year ever bow hunting, I was at full draw on a cow, and missed her because I misranged because I was at full draw for 2 minutes and she kept walking back and forth, and I had ranged the tree that she was standing in front or standing behind. And in my mind at full draw, I was like, okay, she's that yardage, not thinking she's a couple yards behind the tree. And so I smacked the tree right, like dead center, just punched that tree. That tree is dead as all get out. So, but
Tag the tree.
yeah, exactly. But no, it's been a fun journey. I'm really excited to go further with it. I've killed a doe, a buck, mule deer. I've killed a doe whitetail and some other stuff as well. But yeah,
Heck
first
yeah.
bull, and I'm hooked, man. I love elk hunting. It's just that time of year. You can't really beat it. It's cool at night. It's warm during the day. And when you get into elk that are wanting to talk and doing elk things, it's like nothing else.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, it is. I really like elk hunting. And I definitely consider myself like a mule deer hunter. I'm just a hunter, but mule deer is my favorite animal to hunt. And I never really considered myself like much of an elk guy, but then I realized in the past, all of a sudden, without even knowing it, I had shot like 5 bulls in 6 years, and I was like, I guess I am an elk guy. And I only hunted. I didn't hunt the other year. I was on a deer hunt, but they are awesome. I always say that like hunting a mule deer at spot and stalk, especially in like an open terrain, is like trying to outsmart a doctor or someone with a PhD that's just crazy, crazy smart, and you have to try to outwit them in a chess match. And hunting an elk is more like going after like the hardest working construction guy of all time, and then like trying to outwork them physically. So they're two very different things, and I really enjoy both. And I always say too, like, I think it's really important if you want to become a better hunter for anybody is try hunting in different terrains, different species, different weather types, different phases of the rut. Like the more things even hunting small games, super underrated, like going rabbit hunting will teach you a lot of things. And I think sometimes, you go on, say a guy goes on his first hunt and it's a deer hunt in September, early season deer hunt, and then they go do it and they go, oh, I'll just go back and do that. I'll go back and do that because it's what you're comfortable with. Maybe even if you didn't get something, but you're learning, so you're like, well, maybe next time I'll be successful. And you might. That's not bad to do, but I think if you can kind of like try to fill in different pieces of the puzzle, and every time you're out there, and this is so important to me and my dad, is like, even though I feel like our hunting proficiency is very high, and like it's something we've worked cumulatively like 50 years between the two of us to try to get better and better at, more
yeah.
proficient. Every single time we go, our only thing after the trip is like we'll tell stories or whatever happened, but the main thing we spend the whole truck ride home talking about is, what did we learn this time that can make us better than we are now? And that's harder to do when you've kind of like maxed out more of the green bar of learning, but there's always more to learn and ways to be better, especially if you're a newer guy. I always try to tell them your sole thing is every single day, every hunt, Every time you come back to camp, just like dive in really hard on like, what could I have done better? What did I mess up on? How do I not do that again? And if you can start incrementally doing those things, eventually you're not making many of those little mistakes anymore. And I know quite a few hunters that are probably like you, like, 5 to 10 years in, and some of them have gotten pretty good. But a lot of times, especially bow hunting, if they're like getting close to the animal, they'll start making mistakes that blow it. Like they hit the release on their bow, or didn't see a branch they step on. Like just stuff that as you get more more veteran, more time in the field, you've made that mistake before, you tend to eliminate more and more and more of them. Again, you're not going to be perfect, but you'll make them a lot less. And I think that as long as that's people's focus, you're going to eventually be pretty damn good. But it's not going to happen in like 5 years. I think people expect it to happen so much faster, and they're just going to like be great at hunting. And I'm like, it's pretty hard, especially with a bow, Oh, I lost him. Oh, I'm back.
There we go.
Yeah, I don't know. I lost you.
You're good. You were just getting into it too. You're like, there's so, and then it froze. But I
Yeah,
think what's going to happen is it'll upload on your end, so everything will mix up real well. But
cool.
I would agree with you that the more reps in the field that you can get, and that's another big thing too about Texas. If you've got the money and the time that you can travel down to Texas and get reps in the red zone, getting used to getting full draw on an animal with a high heart rate, uh, killing does or javelinas or hogs or coal bucks, whatever it is that you can afford to go down and do. I definitely recommend people do that. I'm working on making more time so I can go do that. Because it's definitely something you should be able to get that practice on more than just a target in your backyard with your Crocs on, on flat ground. And so it's there's a lot of things too that you can get away with certain animals that you can't with other animals. It'll blow your mind, the stuff that you can get away with certain animals, especially. And then again, time of year. Sometimes mule deer are super turned on as far as ready to go the moment they hear you crunching leaves. And then other times they'll look at you 10 yards away from you and like try and figure out what the heck you are, and the same thing with elk. If they're not smelling you, they're trying to figure out what you are, for the most part. And you learn these things rather than trying to sneak in 100-yard shot because you're worried about closing that distance. You learn a lot of those things. And even just the couple years that I've been doing it, there's a lot of stuff that I've learned, and as I've applied it, it's made a huge difference in the success. And as long as you learn from each failure, you get better, and not being afraid to say that you messed up. That's the other thing too, is there's this book I'm reading right now. I don't know if you've seen this book or not, but Mental Toughness by Andy Frisella. And I was reading last night, and it just reminded me of my hunt. Like when was it 2 years ago that I gut shot a buck and couldn't ever find him. And then 2 weeks later, I hadn't been able to hunt since that moment. 2 weeks later, my buddy went up there, didn't know that I'd been hunting up there, but he sent me a picture and was like, "Hey, I found this buck. Do you know anyone that was hunting up here?" And sure enough, it was the right entry and exit hole from where I had shot the buck, and the same antlers and everything. So I went up and notched my tag. But just saying, just saying things like right here in this line, it just says you'll never reach your potential until you can learn to say, "I messed up." And a lot of people are not willing to admit that they screwed up, especially not on the internet. They don't want to admit their faults. But most people feel more comfortable talking to someone that is okay with saying, look, honestly, I don't know why I made that stupid decision, but that was a mess up. I'm sorry. I learned from it, and I'm going to keep growing from it. Right.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's
Without question.
it's a big deal in the woods for sure.
Yeah. Anywhere really, business,
Yeah.
what, like anything. So I definitely agree and think that's a good summation there of that. So yeah, pretty cool. So what's your deal? I don't know if you talk about it on here, but like, are you is like the social media stuff? Is that like your full time thing, or like what?
No.
What do you got? Okay, is that like a
No.
goal? No.
No. So I've got a 9 to 5. I do sales for a dealer management system company called Lightspeed. So if you got a power sport dealership, let me know. I can get you the hookup. But yeah, we do power sport, marine, and RV dealership management systems, and my territory is the Southeast. And then so that's what pays the bills, and then and that's the other thing too. Talking about creation stuff. I mean, you've got things that also pay the bills outside of your brand. It's important to not just drop everything, especially like you're married, and I've got kids, I've got people depending on me. I can't just be like, oh, screw the bills, screw the house, whatever. I'm gonna go do my thing, and hopefully it works out.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
No,
not really how that. It's not how that works.
No, I mean it's good to. I think that having multiple streams of income is really important, though, especially in your job sounds like it's probably like a salary thing, but like in real estate, it's pretty volatile. It's like some months you can make $50,000, and then you might make zero for like 3 months. So it's like having another thing that's also earning revenue, but more consistently is pretty nice. And I think that that's something that if you are going to go down the road of trying to like be a creator and make some revenue off like a whatever, like we do like a merch store and AdSense and stuff like that, having multiple things is really, I think, pretty key, just like you're doing,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the goal is eventually to not have that 9 to 5, right? But for now, that's what we got. And yeah, just in sales, and I love marketing, and I've got a couple degrees that I never talk about because it's not important unless it comes up in conversation, and just stuff like that. And dad of 5 kids, and just absolutely loving it. So when I'm not doing this, I'm with the kids, and when I'm not with the kids, I'm working, and so it is what it is, man. Yeah, exactly.
Dude, well, I'll tell you what, I think this has been a lot of fun, and I appreciate you taking the time to do it with me, and it was cool learning about you a little bit, the guy behind the beard, so it's been a pleasure, and maybe we'll do it again one day, but definitely appreciate you having me on here.
Of course, and we'll have to do something when you're out here in Utah.
Done deal.
We'll have you stop by the first Phorm booth, and then maybe even get to shoot on the practice range and do some of your follow through videos.
Yeah, I could, like, if you and your buddies need some coaching, just let me know. I won't charge anything, Yeah.
So I will say one last thing on the coaching. We've got a guy that I'll have to send you the video on it, but they did this funny video. They call him Coach Bo. He's never shot a bow in his life, but he's like this short dude. He was literally an Olympian. He's an Olympic weightlifter, but he's really short, stocky. I mean, he's built like a freaking Ninja Turtle. And he comes out, and they've done a couple funny clips, just like how Coach Bo is telling you how to coach or how to shoot a bow. And then he went out hunting with him because he's the media guy as well. So he went out hunting with him, and like they went into some corn stalks that like Jake and Dale could see over, and he couldn't. Like he wasn't tall enough. So they had him mic'd up, and he was like, man, I can't see anything. I'm looking like a friggin' grasshopper, and it's just a
That's
funny
classic.
Crew. Yeah,
cool.
But anyway, yeah, we'll definitely have to have you on. Give a shout out. I guess we've talked about the Bow Disciples or the BD crew. But where can people find you at? And I'll leave the links down below.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, we're Bow Disciples on everything. So Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. And we also have a website, bowdisciples.com. We sell release straps, shirts, hats, stickers, patches. And then our big thing is we're doing a 3D shoot in May 18th and 19th, the Bow Disciples Challenge 2. It was amazing last year. We had 159 shooters come from 5 different states.
Wow.
And this year, I think we'll have maybe 10 or more states and hopefully another country too, I think would be pretty cool. So I think it'll be a
That's
lot
awesome.
bigger and it's a challenging shoot, 3 courses, 20 targets. Yeah, if you want to take the family on a vacation to the beach and do a cool 3D shoot while you're there, it's a good opportunity. And all that information's on bowdisciples.com. So you
Sweet.
should come too, by the way, if you're not doing anything, May
Oh yeah.
18, 19.
I'll have to take a look and see what we got going on. But no, that would be awesome. That's I definitely love that because you're down in the San Diego area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that's like one of the best places in California.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
For
awesome.
sure. So anyway, yeah, that's what we got. Like I said, I appreciate you coming on. I always, watching your content and such, and listen to your pod with Whitney. So it's pretty cool. I'm stoked to be on here.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate you coming on, James. Guys, definitely go check out James, the Bow Disciples, the BD crew. I'm going to leave the links down below so you guys can check out what they've got going on. Go check out the shoot, especially if you're in the California area and you need another shoot to go to with some good people, and go shoot some foam, get your bow ready for hunting season. Highly recommend doing that, getting as many reps as possible. Go meet James and the crew. And with that being said, I'm going to leave the links down below. Thanks so much, James, for coming on. And guys, as I always say, get out, live your life, and love it.
Let's go.
What's going on, guys? Hope you enjoyed this conversation with James and the Bow Disciples. Now you're going to go check out their content. You're going to go get a good laugh, possibly even go out to their shoots, maybe see them at Total Archery Challenges. And guys, they're just a great group of individuals that want you to get out and shoot your bow. Just like I'm saying, get out, live your life, and love it. They want you to get out and shoot your bow, go enjoy nature, go on a hunt, spend time with loved ones, all of that. So just a great message. Thank you so much for tuning in. Definitely go check out their content. The links will be down below. And of course, don't forget about the giveaway for the Dark Energy. 3 items that we're giving away. Check that link out down below as well so you can get entered. And I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. If you need anything else as we're gearing up to get ready for early season hunts, I know it's April, but guys, we're a spring bear hunt if you're into that, or we've got August, September, just a couple months away. So if you're into you need any gear, everything from EDC items, so shoes, clothing, etc., all the way to camo, to archery equipment and things like that, check out the links down below, guys. It supports me here at the channel so that I can continue to give you the good content, get you guys the conversations that you want to hear, and get you the gear reviews that you want to see. With that being said, guys, have a fantastic rest of your Saturday. Get out and make some memories. I'm going to go shoot my bow, and you have a fantastic one. Of course, get out, live your life, and love it.